Welcome to See You at the Table, where stories meet grace. Here we gather, not just to speak, but to listen. If you want to witness how God brings people together from all around the world through powerful testimonies, tune in and see you at the table. Here's today's host.
Again, around the table, got somebody really fun today, the Mr. Reverend Johnson.
Yes,
Right?
thank you.
That's your last name, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
From Campbellsville Baptist, and so college and discipleship pastor.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. Going on
so-
2 years now.
Yeah, so kind of like a catch-all, really. That's the person.
Yeah, that's
basically-
exactly what it is. That's
Yeah,
right.
I know those titles. Associate pastor, assistant pastor, those always are the kind that catch everything.
That's it. And I love it.
Yeah. But yeah, got to know you a little bit over the last couple of years, and excited you're here. I noticed you positioned your Alani to tempt me
You
with
like
something I
that?
need to drink.
If they end up
Yeah.
supporting the show, you're welcome.
There we go. We get a sponsor. We need them for campus ministries. But, yeah, we've been inviting people around the table, just trying to hear their stories a little bit, learn about their faith journey. And I know you got a really cool one. But one question we always ask is, how did somebody end up at Campbellsville? So if you're going to give us a nutshell, I mean, how'd you end up? Because you're from Florida, right, originally?
Born and raised in Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
Lived there for 25 years and went to Louisiana to do my undergrad. And then after that, I knew I was going to go to seminary, and the Lord just put me at Southern. So Southern was the clear destination. And when I was there, I just somehow felt compelled to put out a resume to like 3 churches. I didn't
Just
throw it
three?
out to everybody.
Only
Just 3. Yep. I'm pretty picky. And sent one out to Campbellsville and actually heard back from them.
Wow.
And we went through the process. I got to be came down between me and one other guy, and they went with the other guy. So
Okay, so you're kind of back in the story a little bit here. I got you.
that's
Yeah.
right. That's right. And then a year went by, and out of nowhere, I get a phone call from the church just saying, "Hey, are you still available? Are you willing to come?"
Wow.
And the timing could not have been more perfect.
That's really cool.
And so 30 days after that, we were actually moving in here.
Yeah.
And my wife was 36 weeks pregnant.
Oh, nice.
Perfect time to
Nice.
move. Yeah.
Oh, my
yeah.
gosh.
So this is where the Lord wants us. We have no doubt about that. We love it here.
Such a minister's answer right
We-
there.
the honest truth, you know.
Yeah. So you were in Louisville for, you told me 8 years? Or
That's right, 8
yeah?
years.
So what did you do in Louisville?
Seminary for 8 years.
Okay.
I took the slow. I went part time.
Yeah.
So instead of 4, I went 8.
And MDiv or?
MDiv.
Yeah.
MDiv.
People don't, if they've never had a seminary education, they don't understand. It's like a big commitment. Like, I can get a master's in another area for 30, 36 hours.
That's
You
right.
know, and MDiv it's not playing around.
You got to triple that.
Yeah,
Ni-
and you're
92
writing
hours,
papers.
I think just about was where I was at.
Yeah. Usually 92, 96 hours,
That's
somewhere
right.
there.
That's right.
I always love to tell my students on campus, when I'm teaching one of the classes, just to give them context, they'll complain about like a 5-page paper or something. I'm
It's a
like,
warm-up.
Man, I know. I remember 30-page papers, 90-page
That's
projects.
right.
It's
That's
like,
right. You throw in a little Greek and Hebrew
Oh, yeah.
at that level, and you're getting critiqued by some of the best. It's a lot. It can take a toll on you.
And Southern, very academic.
Very.
Yeah,
That's
so
one of the
very high
reasons I
level.
chose it.
Yeah. That's kind of my story, too. I ended up finishing at Southern. I had some hours from other places, but I really ended up feeling pleased with it because it did challenge me academically. Like, I realized I was really wanting that, and it really fit the bill for that. So,
That's right. Yeah, I needed that. I needed to be pushed.
yeah.
I know they would force you to go deep in your study and research.
Read,
so
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that serves you well in ministry.
It does. And if you're wanting to go further after that in education, it's big.
That's
What?
right.
So what about, I'm not as familiar with Louisiana. So that you said undergrad there? Did you work at a church
I don't know
down
if
there
I can
too?
mention a rival college here.
Who you
but,
got?
it's Louisiana Christian University.
Oh, that's
now.
okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought
they're
you
no
were going to
threat
say
to
like
you. You're
LSU or
okay.
something.
No, I would
Yeah.
never. Florida State guy, but
Ugh.
yeah, they had a really strong Christian studies department there.
Really?
A lot of amazing professors. Now they're teaching at seminaries across the country, and
That's awesome.
it's incredible. So it was a good time there, the perfect timing with it. Again, the Lord just at the right time. I was 27, 28 years old
Okay.
when I went back to finish. So I was the old guy in the room.
Yep.
And you took school a little more serious.
That's funny you mentioned that. When I was when I went to Southern, I did it right out of college, but I felt young. Like I remember
Yeah,
being like,
you
man,
would've
there's a
been.
lot of guys that are, in their 30s, 40s,
The
know,
average
that-
age is like 38.
but they definitely it is different.
Mm-hmm.
Like you really do approach it differently and much almost more fresh, I think, in some
Yeah.
ways than there's something I think that lived experience helps academic performance as well. Like even just how you go. It's a shame how we have education structured sometimes. Sorry, I'm getting on like a little.
No, go for it.
All right here, but
I like it.
I don't know, when I'm working on some doctoral kind of stuff now, but the lived experience that I've had has really spoken into that in a deeper way that I never would have had if I just kept going straight through. And it's harder because of life stage and that sort of thing, but there is more fruit to it in some ways, I think.
That's right.
But anyway, I could bore people with that.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's good. I will say, going to school later, you take it a little more serious. You see the value in it.
Mm-hmm.
So you do, and you don't have the same pressure as a 21-year-old. 21 and 22-year-olds aren't begging you to come out and hang with them.
No, right.
You're the old guy, so you have the freedom and the
more
time.
Focused.
You're focused. You're ready to study. You take it serious. And had I done that when I was 21, 22, there's no way.
A little tougher.
Yeah, big time.
So new into Campbellsville, 2 years.
Yes.
Still, I have to ask you, what's your favorite place to eat? We have so many of them.
Oh, I've got one. So, it's kind of split. Can I do two?
Sure, yeah.
All right. If it's breakfast, I'm going to go Hardee's.
Okay.
Anyone who knows me for 5 minutes knows I love a Hardee's biscuit made from scratch daily. I'm bringing on all kinds of sponsors to the show.
There we go. Lonnie, Hardee's.
The other one is Brothers. I love Brothers.
I do love Brothers. I love the smoked
sandwich.
Turkey.
Yeah, I just had their wings today for lunch.
Oh, nice.
So
yeah.
It's been a good day.
It's been a really good day then.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I love asking people that because there's only so many options after a while at Campbellsville.
That's right. It's not Mexican, I'll tell you that. So
really, I love me some.
Oh, I did
Fiesta.
too. So I moved here. Yeah.
Yeah, just because there's so many options
That's all
here.
we've got.
Yeah,
Yep.
I get it. Well, one thing that we try to do with everybody, and I know it's hard because our goal is to kind of give something kind of brief, and there's so much that a person can talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to I hope that everybody, especially students, get to know you even more. There's some really cool ministry going on, I think, through Campbellsville Baptist. But if you were going to share some snapshots of your faith journey, could you tell us a little bit about your faith journey and what that's looked like?
Sure. So I just as a quick little background, I was born and raised in a Southern Baptist church.
Okay.
What you think of in 80s,
I thought you were going to say you were like
Baptist.
Amish or something. I thought it was really going to get.
Do I give off an Amish vibe?
No. When you just, I don't know, in my brain, I thought there was going to be some kind of big thing that is a big shift there.
No,
yeah. Okay.
No. Like a lot of people here in Campbellsville University and whatever. I was just brought up in a Southern Baptist home. My dad was a worship pastor.
Okay. In Orlando, Florida, right?
In Orlando, Florida, that's right. One of the larger churches in Orlando. Wow. So it was a large setting, a lot going on. But I've found through the years that my testimony and really my heart for ministry is driven by where I'm coming from, that there is a lot of people that have a similar story to me right now. And there's a lot of people that, Lord willing, will have a similar story because I came out of a background. It was a little legalistic, so to speak. It wasn't, you had to follow every single rule, but there was an expectation there. And there was, you could be ostracized if you didn't quite fit in.
Like in the church setting?
Do everything right, yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, and so, you were quick to get shunned if you not a lot of grace. So, but I came out of that at 20 years of age. Whenever I was 20 years old, my college pastor had a real impact because what I saw in him was an authentic Christian. And it was the first time in my life I had ever seen somebody intentionally disciple other people like Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd never seen it. Yeah. And
relational, I bet.
That's right. And that has stuck with me forever and shaped my philosophy on ministry. And so one of the things that he really harped on was, Jesus might be Lord or might be Savior, but he really isn't Lord. He would see that, or he would just kind of challenge us to look at the fruit in our lives, because a lot of us grew up, we walked like Christians, we talked like Christians, we smelled. If Christians have a smell, we smelled like it. So
that's scriptural, right? Be the aroma of Christ. Yeah,
that's it. And but a lot of us in that church at that time, and it just started becoming one after the other. Started to see what true Christianity was, and started to come to Christ. And I'm telling you, it was all new. 20 years old, I had 20 years of Scripture poured into me, but I didn't know how to live that. There was just a disconnect. And at that point, giving my life to Christ at 20 years of age, man, everything was different. And I haven't been the same since. Wow. So just that authenticity, and then also discipleship, that was something he harped on. And it's been a passion in my ministry ever since. Wherever I go, even if I'm not on a church staff, which I wasn't in Louisville the whole time I was there, but I was engaged in discipleship.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, that's literally your position now. You know, college.
That's
college
right.
and discipleship pastor. Yeah, yeah. Discipleship, man, has always been at the heart. Like the Lord really drilled that into my life in so many ways, and I don't know that. I think we have kind of kindred spirits in that sense on that whole relational ministry and what discipleship really is. Why do you think there historically has been, I guess, the last couple of generations, such a disconnect in, especially you're talking about Southern Baptists, or is it unique? Is it just like something we've always struggled with, like really living it out the true way?
Yeah, I can't speak for people outside Southern Baptist life. That's all I've known, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But whenever I was growing up, the push was, especially at a large church, numbers were a big deal.
Sure.
And so we were all trained to be evangelists.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, from the time you're a kid, we learned the Romans road.
Yeah, yeah.
And you would go around the block with your New Testament, and you would convert the same person every year.
Okay.
You get them to pray a prayer.
Have a new track every year.
That's it. And then, but never any follow-up, never any discipleship. It's once we evangelized them and got them into the church, that's where the goalpost was set. And so discipleship, at least in our context growing up, was non-existent. And that's why when Tom, my college pastor, came on the scene and changed the lives of myself and so many others at my age, we saw that. We saw discipleship for the first time, and it was contagious.
What were some of the telltale signs of that? Like you said it's authentic, it's genuine, it's relational, but if you were to have to describe what does discipleship really look like, because that's had a huge impact on you and really your trajectory. What does that real deal actually look like?
So I remember back in those days, man, I'm old enough to say that now.
Got to have the Alani to stay awake, baby.
Was a big deal.
Oh gosh, okay.
Right, so they're singing songs about
Todd Agnew,
all that stuff. But a lot of their songs were Stained Glass Masquerade and all these kind of things that were making us think, there is a bit of a hypocrisy or a phony or just a disingenuine kind of atmosphere in our church. People weren't being true to themselves. They weren't being authentic. You were kind of pressured to show up as though everything was good, and nobody would ever talk about their pains, their difficulties, their struggles. That stuff was never really talked about on our church campus. So when Tom came, one of the things Tom did was Tom was very real. You would see Tom at a low point. He didn't try to hide it from you.
Yeah.
I've seen he would apologize afterwards.
Right, yeah.
But it was also part of his discipling is you need to understand Christians go through these difficult times too. I saw him as a father, I saw him as a husband on the good days and the bad days in both.
Transparency there, yeah.
Transparency, and I had never seen that. You'd always seen people just being perfect.
Yeah.
And Tom came in and was real and authentic. And it was different.
I think that's it's really interesting because you're technically a millennial, right? Like me. Yeah.
I think so. I was born 84.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're almost Gen Xer there a little bit.
That's what I'm saying. I'm in the middle. Yeah.
So, but I think it's really interesting because that's a big thing I think with Gen Z is this authentic kind of idea.
Right.
I really don't think that's a generational thing. I think every generation has to wrestle with what authentic faith is, and there's some different barriers in that. Yeah. But I always think that's funny. Every time somebody's like, "Oh, this generation is really looking for authentic faith," I think everybody has to wrestle with that in some kind of way throughout their life, and it is a challenge. Like when I think of our college students now, I see a lot of tension with how they have maybe this performance-driven faith, the big stage kind of stuff. I really hear them talking a lot about that, but I really resonate. I remember, I was a college student thinking, there's just you want this authentic, real, honest thing. And I don't think that journey is relegated to one generation. I think sometimes we capitalize on that, but I really think it's something that each group of people are wrestling with. And honestly, you almost wrestle with it, I think, differently in each season of your life.
That's right.
Like, what does your faith look like now as a dad and as a husband? And to live that out authentically and real, well, what have you learned in that? As a dad, as a husband, journey in that. How has that faith journey kind of changed in those seasons in that sense?
Well, so I've gotten a much greater appreciation for God's patience, God's love towards me. I've learned a lot just being a husband.
Oh yeah.
I've been a failure as a husband at times. I've been a gracious husband at other times, but I've learned so much by just loving my wife, but also her kindness and forgiveness whenever I mess up,
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'll catch myself like, I don't know how Christ, we are his bride. Man, he is gracious with us. And you get a good understanding of that when you fail.
Yeah.
And yet you see my wife, Holly, forgiving me and just loving me and encouraging me in spite of my failures, but also at the same time, even as a father, you get an even bigger. So I know you're a dad yourself. So, it's you see as you're raising children, you get a glimpse of God raising us.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You get a much better understanding of discipleship, really just kind of through teaching your children and, as they grow. So, and you see the silliness of them, and their imagination, and they're just all over the place. And then whenever they do things that are wrong and they think, it's the biggest thing in their life, they think everything's ruined and they just, daddy's not going to love me anymore.
Yeah.
Baby girl, I love you. You could do nothing to ever, cause daddy to. I tell my girl every night whenever I put her to bed, daddy loves you and I will always love you no matter what. I want to plant that every single night so that just sticks. Because there's going to come days where she's really going to wonder, does he still love me?
Well, what's wild about that is they still have to choose to whether they believe that or not. Like, no matter how good I am or bad I am as a father, I mean, obviously there are things that you can speak truth into your kids or you can speak lies into them. But either way, at some point, they really have to believe it or not, and that's kind of, it's a hard thing as a dad, too, because you want them to know to the core who they are, that you love them with everything you have, but they have to kind of decide if they're going to believe that or not,
That's it.
That's tough, I think.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah. Well, what about, I know you're serving at Campbellsville Baptist, and hopefully several of our students will kind of listen to this or, be checking it out. But what's, from your perspective, what's a great way for a college student, I guess two things, to connect to a body of faith while you're there? Like, what are some good ideas, thoughts? And then for Campbellsville Baptist specifically, what's the best way to, to plug in over there?
Okay, so if you are, you talk about college ministry, like in our
Yeah.
The best way for you to connect, we're walking distance from the campus, which is a blessing. It is a good thing, yes. And the best way to connect with our college group, at least for now, is Sunday morning. We call it Sunday school, call it small group, whatever you like. That's where
it's all the same.
That's where most of the college students that are involved in our ministry tend to show up.
Okay.
Now, one of the things I've always pushed in college ministry is I don't want us to just come and be served. I really want our college kids to serve the next generation, to serve the previous generation. And so on any given Sunday, we'll have 5, 6, 7 college students serving throughout the church.
That's awesome.
During that time, and that's okay. I don't, you got to be in our class at our time. No, I want you to serve, the church. And that's one of the beauties of connecting to the church. And this is one of your things talking about connecting to the church at large is, we tend to show up and think, what can the church do for me?
Yeah.
And that's the wrong approach.
We want to consume.
It's part of, that's right. That's right. Yeah. But one of the reasons Christ gave us the church is that primary family here on this side of heaven for us to be plugged into is not only are we served, yes, but we also need to use our God-given gifts and skills to serve other people. And, intergenerational discipleship is a big thing that we do. That's one of the things under my umbrella, and I love it.
Yeah.
We intentionally try to pair older generation, middle-aged, young, in every group as best we can.
That's so good.
Biblical. I think that's what Paul's prescribing in his letters to Timothy. So the older teaching the young, but then the young have a lot to give back to the older as well. So it's in that church setting, you really do get a true multi-generational, that oneness, that bond, that being part of the same body that serves each other at the same time. So yeah, it's a wonderful church to do that in. It really is. Yeah.
That's pretty unique too, because it's not easy.
No.
It's much easier to be siloed or to, even the framework of a lot of churches that way already. And so that's awesome that you guys are doing that.
Yeah. And I know, when your average person thinks of a college ministry, it is still a bit of a silo mentality. We have our own service. We do our own thing. We kind of pull ourselves away from the church and we have fun and do our own thing. And, enjoy your time together. We do things.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of community just with college students, but at the same time, what I really want you to do is plug in and to connect with all ages in the church. That's where we're going to grow, and that's where we're going to mature.
Yeah, and
together.
As a campus minister on a college campus, I think that's one thing I wish churches would really grasp a hold, like, that's unique. Like, we can't create that here in that same fashion. Now, there, as the church, church isn't defined by the walls, obviously. So I'm hoping and praying that the church is being lived out here on this campus through believers. But, I think that sometimes churches around universities kind of miss that opportunity they really have to be that family, to really disciple these students in ways that they really, really need. And so we're always trying to, push students that way as much as possible. And that service part you said, I remember when I served as an associate pastor, that was one of the greatest strengths our church had to offer students, was the opportunity to serve and to grow.
Yeah. And
it was just really cool, as a minister there, the opportunities I had to disciple those students, and ended up marrying a lot of them, performing their weddings and those kind of things. And so I'm always hoping and praying that, local bodies of faith really just catch that vision.
Yeah.
Because it's such a blessing to you too. Like, we love students being around our kids. Mm-hmm. Like, our kids glean so much from these college students. Yeah. And especially Campbellsville University is very global, and so just really fun for our kids to be exposed to Christians that, are from, Nigeria or from Ireland or whatever, and really just be able to see God's work. And I know that's impacting their lives. And I think sometimes we miss out as the local body of faith that, oh man, there's so much opportunity in that when you have a college in town. And so,
it's been a blessing, even with my family, like you're saying, just your children kind of catching that. My girls don't know any different. They think it's normal for you to have, multi-generational, multi-ethnic people over in your house, in your life. They don't know any different.
I love that. Yeah. Well, I know there's always so much to talk about, but I always ask everybody just to kind of wrap it up. If you were to give a table tip, just kind of lay it on the table as something, and, I love when we share the stories, there's so much that God brings to the table through our lives. Like, I love hearing each journey, so unique, so different, to go. And, your heart for discipleship and your heart for really connecting people across the board is such a unique thing. I think that the Lord has wired you with, that you bring to the table. But, if you're going to give kind of a little table tip as you go today, something for people to listen to, marinate on, chew on a little bit, what would you offer?
Oh, that's a big question.
Yep.
I think one word that we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier in the conversation, but one of the things that has always been important to me is just being authentic, be real, and that.
Sorry, that made me think of the social media. You remember the Be Real thing?
No.
Oh man. Yeah.
Oh no.
I'll tell you about it later. It's not bad. No, it's fine.
Okay, good. That's okay. But just being real, being authentic. I think the world needs to see Christians as we really are, and not who we want them to see us as. Man. So. You go into your average church, especially, and Southern Baptist churches through the decades have this reputation of you have to be right before you come here. You have to be cleaned up before you walk into our doors. Yeah. You got to be one of us before we'll let you in, like us, rather, before we'll let you in. And that's not the heart of Christ at all. Christ has come as you are. And you read, one of the things I love about Scripture, Old, New Testament, doesn't matter. A lot of these heroes that get propped up in our minds, these Abrahams, these Davids, they were
knuckleheads, man.
They made some dumb moves, and
absolutely.
And Scripture records that for all eternity.
Yeah.
So just being authentic and real. We're not perfect people, but we're sinners. We're just sinners saved by grace.
Man, that's so good.
Yeah.
Man, that's such at the heart of even these conversations we're trying to have, is this idea that God welcomes us to the table, like He makes room. Yeah. And there's something so powerful about a welcome, that you can really come to the Lord with no strings attached, in the sense of that. And so thanks so much for hanging out with us. If you're listening and you're a student here, man, I hope you get to know Nathan.
Yeah. Talk to you.
And awesome dude. But thanks again.
Thank you, Trent.
This podcast is brought to you by Campus Ministry at Campbellsville University, where faith, testimony, and dialogue come together. Stay connected, stay inspired, and we'll see you at the table next time.